that people who have spent time in Sahaja develop such a roundedness. You know, you're so rounded, so stable. You're so stable that you don't meet life with your mind anymore. You're more stable. You know how to stay in the self and to trust being in the self and to see from the place of the self rather than from the place of the person. Because it's a huge difference, the difference between heaven and earth actually. Where the person is always kind of looking at, they pay too much, there's too many feelings going on, there's too much noise, there's too much mind, and they're easily lost in the mind. Or they can't hold their fire, like if you take a bit of metal and you put it in the fire, after a while you can take that metal out and walk with it for a while and touch things and set fire to them. But after a while, the power is gone. You may put it in water, it makes no noise after the power is gone. But there are some who, they become the fire, so they never fade out, like the minds to keep being dipped in the fire. No, they are the fire. And I look at it like that. At first, the seeker is like the piece of iron that you put in the fire. And then it's capable of setting other things on fire. It carries the heat in it. But after a while it goes. But the one who realizes is the fire. You understand? It's the mind that comes to come to it. But it is the fire. And the people have to be the fire. Not go to the fire. We say throw everything in the fire, including you, which is your self-image, to throw that in the fire. And everything becomes only fire. So don't be someone who constantly goes to the fire. That is the sadhaka, we may call the devotee. But the one who is the fire consumes everything. You are the pure fire. Having been in satsang now, sharing this kind of sharing for some time, you can begin to see why, in spite of the fact that everybody is that there's only one now and again break open, hatch, that this egg opens once in a while. I say, why? So I can't accept. I don't accept this. I don't think anyone who has realized yourself can accept that, although you know that. You do accept it on one level, but on the other level you cannot accept it because you know that it's not an ultimate truth. It's only a phenomenal truth. It's not an ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is that we're all this thing. It's just there. That's all that's there. But the experience is that while the beingness is adopted the person, then it's very rare for the person to get it. This is the thing. Although the person folds up into the being. But this is what happened.
Even being with you in that way, could it still be the case?
I think I'd have to get violent to set people free.
Yeah.
You understand? I'm just still very soft at the moment. Still too soft.
But what do you mean when you say to become violent?
Meaning that I'm still too kind with people. And so, in a sense, because I always feel that I will be kind first. Because my nature is more kindness. If you can get it with kindness, true kindness, yes, then it's good because you don't have to be hard. But then, by every means necessary, by any means necessary. And if it's time to be more strong, then you feel more strong. I mean, for some people, I'm already too strong. But still I feel, no, I'm not strong enough. I mean, I can step it up somehow, I don't know, just, it's happening naturally by itself, because after a while I just get tired with mediocrity or something. I don't want to see the same face, the same mouth asking the same question for too long, you know. After, you know, somehow it has to ask it with blood in your mouth. You can ask the question again with blood in your mouth. You can't be asking it with lipstick on your lips. You have to have blood in your mouth, you know. Then you won't keep this question for very long. I see that people, they're not yet aware of what it takes. There was one girl I remember coming in London. She came to see me, and she was very near to kind of committing suicide. She was watching Satsang before she became very, very weak or something like this. And she was near to a stage of wanting to take her life and so on. So I had to somehow help her to restore her ego. Because the ego is to, you see, that kind of ego I don't want to kill. If I kill this ego, it just raises up as another ego. So you have to kind of, in a way, rescue the ego until it's strong enough to kill it properly. You understand? It's like you don't want to. I don't want to sacrifice, you know, sick food. If somebody is too sick, you cannot make sacrifice for them. They have to be healthy in a way, you know. So the ego, I had to work with her ego to try and make it more healthy again, to restore self-confidence and so on. You see? And then when she left, she was much happier and she says, "Thank you so much," and so on, so on, so on. The story is not finished. We just introduction. We haven't started the page yet.
Yes.
You have to be fit enough to be chopped. So this is what you're speaking, that first of all, the people come and maybe they have not really been received so openly. For most people, before they can be received, they have to prove themselves. But I don't require a person to prove themselves. I mean, I greet them as the self. So it doesn't matter what you have done or anything like that. I will bring you and embrace you and, you know, welcome you in the heart.
So you may think, do you think that, for example, sometimes this, when you speak, like I should start being more violent? Because now we are a group living together for quite a while. And it's almost like we're getting used to the care. But is not this the work yet? Not that there is a work, but it's not that...
It is, because I mean everything has been already presented enough for people to go through, you know, everything has been there. It's like you go for your delivery, you know, and the doctor is there, the incubator is there, the bed is there, everything is ready, yeah, but it's false alarm, you know, so it's like a bit of a waiting game. So this thing about people is not something that I can decide as a technique.
Yes,
it's just I feel it energetically. My whole life is being expressed energetically now. It's not that I'm thinking so much about anything. It's just somehow I start to feel that with each one gets treated differently as well too. How these things change, I can't discuss that. How it is, you know. It's just a feeling come inside, and that kind of way doesn't work anymore for me. Like for me, not for you only. Because what works for me is what's gonna have to work for you. It's not what worked for you, I must find what works for you. It's I have to find what works for me. And sometimes that stage just comes where there's a kind of, there is not any more space for this type of question anymore. It's like some kind of questions I don't answer anymore. You see, people may not be aware of that. I don't really entertain that. And certain time also when I'm speaking about something, and people come and bring another kind of question, I just say, no, this time I don't have time for you now. Now we're not going to open doors for you. You have to come in through the cracks or we leave you burning in the building. Because you've had your chance, you not use your chance. So sometimes I have to speak like that, and people kind of feel, wow, it's like, there's something wants to be comfortable, something wants to still know. People want to kind of know. So what do I do? And how do I say, you cannot do anything at all. You have not done anything with your life so far at this level. You see? You've only been going shopping. You have not really done anything really yet. So don't ask me what you want to know. You have not used knowledge properly. You have to now somehow, you're more desperate than you think. So you have to convey this thing to people, because otherwise they kind of like still think, I've got time, and just kind of like, I'm going to the next retreat. That's why one lady in Satsang, she was saying, well, at least I got the next 10 days. I said, you don't even know if you got tomorrow. You say your attitude is not good. You're already giving too much attention to something, to a promise you don't have. You say, well, I'm going to be here for the next 10 days. I say, if you say to your mind, I've got 10 days, it's going to take at least 10 days to do it. And maybe very unlikely 10 days, because you have already a liberty to open up too much. There's too much space around you. You want to keep a lot of space around you. And sometimes when it comes to like an emergency, then you see who is going to make it, who will make it. Because some people can step up to an emergency, they're really there. But others, they'll still be sleeping in that. And so this is what I mean by it. I want to be able to feel you enough to feel like there's a chance to really meet you. And I don't feel that there's anyone really ready to be met. A lot of people, they have relationships, but they've not offered themselves. So there's no permanence. Not that a relationship is necessarily permanent, but there's something, the love is permanent, the truth is permanent. They've not accessed their own permanence. So everything in your life is temporary. Everything about your life is temporary. And that's fine, because then you're saying that all that there exists about you belongs to the changeful. And I just want to meet the unchanging thing, not the changeful. The changeful, I don't want to keep. We enjoy. We don't try to preserve. You enjoy. And with this freshness, somehow you see the permanent even in the temporary. But if you only see in the temporary and you want the temporary to look permanent, you won't do it, because you yourself are temporary from that place. So this is the kind of thing, And maybe it just comes with having so many conversations with people, with the attempt to reach them and failing, Sort of...
How can you keep up with it? I mean, sometimes my biggest doubt is that I'm fooling myself. Is it really, because there's no space, you don't leave space for any fantasy. So sometimes I feel actually, I'm still working with the mind in many ways. So I don't know if
yes, I don't know which way to go with this type of thing, because
I have a strong belief that something keeping me with you all these years, and there's been many pitfalls, but it feels there's something trust in this, because even the way I met you was completely, I never was looking for you consciously.
Just let go of trying to be safe in this life, or trying to protect something in this life, or just be inside yourself. That's the only thing I can say, because you cannot carry any guarantee about anything, nothing at all. And if you're going to start to rely on the law alone, you're already in mischief already. You're already in some, So I don't really want to speak to anybody who goes towards life from the mind's point of view, because it's just a horrible way for me. You look at this may happen and then this might happen. So there has to be something there. Something is there. I just really, like, in a way, on some level, I'm attacking everything to not leave any space. It's like whatever is burnable, we're just burning it. Even if it's your nappy, we're just burning everything so that you can't get back into them anymore. Rather than saying, okay, it's this thing, we burn the handkerchief. No, it's that thing, we burn. It's just burning everything that's burnable. There's a feeling like that. And rather than me looking out and seeing this, I'm looking in and seeing this. It's like just how I'm feeling, like I'm feeling now. there's some kind of questions, there isn't really the patience, like you use the word patience, there isn't really the patience to be with them as a general thing, because there's always surprises. Sometimes somebody may come for the first time, ask this question, and it's not the question, but it's the person is genuine enough to answer that question to them. But I don't want this question being asked from somebody who was with me for a while. I just think, then, something needs much harder way to get that, to finish that. Relate to me as consciousness and stop being a person with me. You're being a person with me, then who the hell are you going to be consciousness with? If even with me you're going to be personal, then who are you going to get a chance to be consciousness with? You see? So I want to take out all this stuff, take out all this tripe and all this stuff, so that you have to start to respond as consciousness, not just to me, but to everything. To be in that.
I heard you say lately that things eventually find their way up to the surface, they swim up to the surface, and I just trust that is the way that it gets taken care of.
The big yes must come, the yes inside you, just the yes. Then, the other day I was given the example because we went to this river, to this new lake that we found inside the forest and went down there. We were all inside the lake. And Prabhu, who cannot swim, run to the thing and jump off. Now, for me, that is yes. You understand? Because everybody can swim. Everybody went, we do our somersault, we did our jumps, but he can't swim. Okay? And he goes, I'm coming! And he just ran. He didn't walk.
No, it's first like everybody was jumping, and he said, Pablo, jump. He said, I can't swim. And then you told him, I think, jump. And then
he ran. There it is. And it was in the water going, and we cannot carry it. But for me, I said, that's what I want to see. I want to see someone who is living by trust, Not, I'm going to challenge life. But he took the chance, because what you had your shorts on, you're by the river, the board is there, the water is filled, it's your turn, And he went for it. And, he didn't say, can anybody rescue me? He just went like that. And it was so beautiful. I didn't want to know how deep it is, how, he just went for it. And I feel there's a time for that. And don't miss your moment. Because you can spend a lot of time talking about it and, doing your research when, you need to be just in the fire of that. What happens is that you don't have to think how to. You must just trust now. And you be and follow the advice you're given. And just find yourself in life and find how the self is with life. Because how to is for the mind. How to is still technique, and the self has no technique. The self does not need any technique. You just go. And you are there, and then somehow what is in synchronicity to the moment, because nobody can synchronize ahead of time for these type of things. For practical things, yes, you can say we do this, we practice and so on. So in the world of physics, biology, mathematics, psychology, you can somehow organize some things. But at the deeper level, or the higher level, whichever way you want to put, you don't need any of that. You have to come completely naked. You have to be naked. Or you're still in time, you're still in past, you're still in person, you're still in mind. So most people, they venerate these other practices. They worship, they respect, the laws of physics, the laws of mathematics, the laws of reason. And there are laws within the world of relative. There are laws there. They are kind of like relative truths. They're not absolute truths. One who I call awake doesn't function like that. They won't go that route. They have transcended that kingdom of physics and the laws of gravity and the laws of biology, human biology, psychology, all this type of stuff. They're not functioning on that level. And satsang is bringing you more into this, more intuitive, to be empty. The world cannot understand somebody who's empty. So don't look for understanding for the world, from the world. You cannot explain yourself. You don't know how you're going to be. You don't know anything you're going to use. You don't know what you're going to say. You don't know who you're going to say it to. You don't know when you're going to say it. You're just empty. And when you come like that, then you're truly conversant with life, because nothing in the life that you see around you is personal. Nothing at all is personal. It is just unfolding. And when you can be yourself, transcend the mind, because the mind is there developed in the human aspect of consciousness, because that is the path that consciousness took, the path of logic, of conditioning, of discipline, of identity, all of these things. And it's going to walk through that path because it has to somehow experience itself through these limitations. It cannot experience itself absolutely. It can only experience itself through limitation, because limitation gives it the necessary friction in order to have, contrasting, to have knowledge. And the thing is so perfect that it's not aware of its perfection. It just is. It's like an innocence. But don't underestimate that innocence. That innocence is responsible for all the beings in this universe. It's coming out of it. And who are we? We are that in its expression as individuality that has to realize the unicity of that, with that thing there. And it's totally practical. When I speak about this, it's practical. But you need more than logic or reason, rational, mathematics, physics, chemistry. You need more than that. All the things we talk about, the practices, are to do with relativity. The laws of relativity, of the manifest world, and the necessary duality that makes the manifest world behave as it does and perceive as it does. So the consciousness must work with that material, with that medium of duality. But it must also, as I say, you cannot just be in the view of consciousness. You must also be behind consciousness. You cannot be an object in front of consciousness. You have to be also behind consciousness. When you know this behindness, then the in frontness can be okay. The in frontness is just unfolding. But when you are just the in frontness, meaning that you are a person living like this is just life, I don't know what's going to happen and so on. So you are very much living a life of events or happenings. Then you can say, oh, my life has been auspicious or not auspicious. But from the standpoint of the pure self, these things are just there. It's just like we can go in that room and we can live our life in that room. When we talk about the relative world, the person, evolution of consciousness, for me, I'm talking about going into the room of relativity. And it's okay because I'm familiar with that room also, maybe, aspect of myself, my body, my thoughts, my conditioning and so on, they're in the world of relativity. But I absolutely am not trapped in that world. And this is what the satsang is to not that I know this mentally, because this is the one thing I cannot know mentally. I have to be that. I cannot know it mentally. I just have to be that. And by being that, somehow the rest of the relative things, they make sense. It's fine. It's okay. And this is the highest calling card in this relative place, to pull you in, to come out, to turn the consciousness inside out, so to speak, so that you know yourself as the unknowable. You know the unknowable. You see, then you start to talk like this, you see, sounds like totally contradictory or paradoxical, but you know that you are the unknowable. But this is not a mental knowledge, not a knowledge that you can keep, it's just what is there. And so every time, in one way, with the painful sadhana up to a point, depending upon the attitude of the consciousness, the painful sadhana is every time you refer to yourself from the relative, it's going to sting you and say, what you're talking foolishness again. Until it completely frustrates your vocabulary, your personal vocabulary. Because the one who speaks the truth also is using the same language, the same words, it's the same dictionary, it's the same thesaurus, but the power is different. There's not a special language for realization. It's the same words, but the power is different because it's coming from a different place. And I was watching a teacher just recently, but I hear these teachers, they sound very lucid and very clear, like what they're speaking like is very clear. But then from this place I can see it's totally mental, because they don't have that I don't know what the word is, that kind of mystical juice. They don't have that quality, that indefinable something. It's just mental. It sounds very, very good, but there's no magicality in it, no depth to this thing. And this is why I'm saying the same thing with the people who are coming for satsang. You have to be that depth. Not that you know and you can talk, but you still keep your identity, you still keep the ego. This is what's still happening. We are gambling, you can lose your stuff, but yourself you don't lose. You see, it's like there's a gamble, we're betting, but you never bet yourself. You only bet your things that you think you have. And something has to exchange the self. You cannot keep your person. It's like a fear. It's like we're still holding on to the fear of losing, what we think we know, what we think we have. That's why I ask you, what do you have? You see?
Which there is still here a feeling that some things are happening to me. And from this point I don't see the universality of what I am.
This is okay, but you have to leave that alone a bit. That feeling, we cannot get away totally from that feeling, because you got a body, the body's there, education, conditioning, vital force. So it's like that. Some of that is going to be there, but don't get stuck with that. Look from where you're watching this thing. Don't try too much to overcorrect things which are still based on a personal perspective. This is why I don't want to give too much energy to people who are trying to correct things which seems wrong, but from a personal standpoint. You see, I want to just burn the whole thing down. Don't want to, because it's like a waste of time. You see, the thing that needs to burn is the one, is like the person sense is being protected, but the person's story is you're trying to ignore the person's story, but the person who makes the story we are keeping.
And how is it, because in this past weeks, a few times I had like these glimpses of seeing maybe, but it was like the thing was that actually it's true, there is nothing here living life, there is just life, and the feeling was just like there is nothing different from life actually here. But this was detonated by either intense pain or shock or some kind of strong.
But why not give a little bit of space to that shock,
But that's my question. Then, okay, as this pain was fading, let's say, also this sense of life is just living itself. Almost like these things are not happening to me, these things are happening through me. This sense as well, it faded. And then the question that stayed in my mind is like, actually this I that is speaking now cannot do anything about it, so how do I go on from
there? Has to be a trust. You see, how do you go on is somehow you're still picking up that I that must go on. You see, what is happening is that there is a transition is happening from the person to the presence. The presence doesn't know how to go on. The presence just is. The person wants to know, but how do you carry on? When I'm free of me, how do I carry on? I say, where the hell are you there to be asking how do you carry on? You're already gone. You see, so there has to be a trust that is not complete. The thing is still asking for any final contracts I need to sign here before. But it's not like that. It's not that you are losing you. You are finding you. What you're losing is the not you. But because there's still some cloudiness, it feels like, my God, and it's like I'm giving up all my life, everything. What is that? It's nonsense. You're actually coming home to yourself.
Yeah, actually, it's been about I've been having like this intense fear of losing my body in any sense, either because I would die and really drop it.
But having the whole frame of mind is not preserving your body anyway. It's just that you preserve some delusions about yourself, and what's happening is that something is dying. Your delusions are dying, and what happened is that the delusion you have about yourself is dying. So if you feel like yourself is dying, but you are never going to be more alive than you are becoming, actually. This is the paradox, is that very often at this stage, the people are feeling that, my God, I'm going to die, or, I just feel like I'm going to pass away and stuff. And I say, it's okay, you just put in the wrong labels. The fact is that something, you've been relying on things which are very unreliable, but you became comfortable with your projections. And now you're seeing them for what they are, that they are time bound and there's no guarantees in that thing. But when you hold this up to the light of understanding, then you may really come into the recognition of what is eternal in you. You see, what was happening is that something knows something is eternal, was afraid to be that. So more it exchanged it for a mental version of that. And that now is being washed out, so it feels like, I'm going to die, or this type of thing. Actually, the one who was afraid of dying is the one who will die. You see, when you realize what you are, you will see that which doesn't die. And then the trauma really is over, in a sense, you see. You can meet your death. There's always still something, because we still have a relationship with life. I have a relationship with you, I have a relationship with you. So when I leave this body, you may still feel, wow, this will not be there in the same way. But I don't feel that there's any real loss, because it doesn't really work like that. What we are in essence is not going to separate. We're not separating, and your experience, our experience of each other, the essence, you will see that that is the thing that you most love. And here I just have to say to everybody, we just have to trust. Just have to trust that in knowing the truth, everything is win-win. You're not, everything is going to be okay. Somebody sent me a link. I don't know who made this video. It's like 30 seconds. It's one of my videos. I think it was at the Battersea Art Center in the dress room. I was sitting there. 30 seconds. And then at first, it was just me saying, everything is fine. Everything is fine. It does not matter what's going to happen. Just know inside and trust. Everything is fine. And I felt it was such a powerful message, because I think, my God, at first I was saying, but why did I make such a short video? And then I look at it again. And I say, but it's like, no one tells you that everything is fine. Everything is fine. You fall off your bicycle, you lose your, it's fine. It's fine. Everything is fine. The bottom line is everything is fine. And I felt it's one of the most powerful videos, actually. Because I'm not explaining about the mechanism of the mind and how the ego and stuff. I'm just saying, don't worry. Even if you have a big illness and you have whatever it is, everything is fine. And I feel like it's something that we just need to hear, because we're running a lot on things going to go wrong and, oh my God, what if, and like it, I feel it is sometimes simple message is good. Because we have so much fears about the future and so much clinging to memories and to hold hurts or whatever. So when you hear that somehow, whether from inside or outside, because it's good when you hear it inside. When you create, I'm going to use a working title for the moment, a relationship with yourself, because that's not going to be ultimately how it is. Meaning the self's present sense of itself as a person must aspire for or create a relationship with the inmost being. So there's a kind of duality there. But as it's drowning in that devotion, in that relationship, you see, then it will receive its higher teachings from inside. Illumination come from inside, and it is always somehow encouraging. And it's not severe in its instruction. It's just reminding you everything is fine. Don't worry. Just trust everything is fine. Until you don't have to keep remembering everything. It's like it just becomes a part of you, that inner knowing that it's fine. Don't think, oh, after this, what's going to happen if we go over there? Just know everything is fine. And this is why I say that it's probably one of the most beautiful videos.
Your teaching in a nutshell. Your teaching in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
It's
My
also
teaching in a nutshell.
it's good for every situation, every.
Yes. Yes.
I feel is sometimes the words intellectual I try to understand, but the feeling of and the energy that your presence give and connect with me that's what's working to expel the things. Intellectually, sometimes it's too much.
Yeah.
This energy is what I feel attracted since the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny because, I was never brought up with this type of way of explaining things and so on. I was always the last one to be around when people explaining things. There's no appealing for me at all. And in the early part of my my life in this region, this chapter of my life, I was not reading anything or nothing like that. I feel it started off when these people started visiting, and they were visiting, and then they wanted to ask questions, and I did not know how to answer those questions. And I was praying, you are sending these people to me. Then please tell me what to say to them, because I don't know what to say to them. That's how it started happening, conversing with people. I was not conversing with people, not verbally, but we'd sit, and somehow just the sitting was enough for a while, until it wasn't. Certain kind of people were coming and they were asking, my mind is being like this, and is there a way in which I can train my mind? I have nothing to say. I had nothing to say at all. And then somehow this whole thing of the use of inquiry and so on just came like this. I never learned it. It just came, and I saw very clearly how their problems open up, and why you're thinking like this and this, and started to guide and explain these things. And I remember from the early days, the people were saying, I didn't really come so much for your teachings, but more for your presence. But I didn't like that. I was saying, but now I'm talking, you should listen to what I'm saying, because I don't particularly like talking, but there is something that is there. But it was, I don't know, maybe mostly a lot of people coming had more intellectual background, so they're more comfortable with words. But words were new for me. And I really felt the words now are saying something now. So pay attention also to the words. But both of them are important. Sometimes the words are coming, and I see some people have very difficulty, especially the bhakti type people. The people who are more devotional, more heart feeling, more feeling people. They're not so easy with the words, because their mind just goes like this, And I said, don't worry, that's fine, because other energies are here serving you. Don't worry about that. But as much as you can be open, then you may find that it just bursts open and you start to understand. Because that's how it happened for me also. I never understood Ramana Maharshi teaching. I thought they were very intellectual for me, my way, until I met Papaji. And then suddenly I could understand Ramana Maharshi's teachings. So I know that it's not necessarily something that you have to study with a book in front of you and scratching your head. That it can just open up that area. That's how it happened for me. It just opened up with somebody who taught you inquiry, because Papaji never taught inquiry, not in that way. He uses inquiry, occasionally, But I find that I am actually guiding through the inquiry, although I actually come from a bhakti background in a way. Mine is just, everything is God. And it still is. I still feel this love for God, and yet at the same time, not even yet, because I don't see it different, the straightness and directness of Jnana Yoga, of speaking this wisdom path, because it's very clear. It's very clear and very simple also. I think what happens is that the minds of people is very complex, and to work with them, with their complexity, sometimes you have to work a bit like this and to show, but again, look, you're again thinking this, but who is thinking that? And for me, when I speak like this, it's totally clear from this point of looking at it. It's totally clear from this point where the mix-up is, where the problem is. I say, why you keep going to that? Don't touch that. And where are you now? But sometimes people get lost with this. But for me, it's very obvious like that. And the people who are more feeling, and I say, just try and be open to this, but don't worry if you don't get it yet, because it's just like a cloud that has to burst open to rain. It's just one day you'll just understand it, because that's how it happened for me. It became very, very clear. It was not coming from a book. It just came very, very clear.
And his opening is spontaneous. Yes.
It is spontaneous, and it's happening.
You cannot create. You cannot. Even if I wanted, I know that I have to be relaxed about this, because it's yes. You see, it has to happen. It will happen. My feeling is not.
Both is there. It has to happen. But we cannot just go and wait under a tree for the apple to fall on your head. It's going to happen. Something will happen. It will happen. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But also it's being induced also. It's like the birth is going to happen, but sometimes it needs a bit of inducing. Like it needs to have a bit of help. And I think for most people, they need help. Meaning your consciousness, but something has to keep reminding you like this. Otherwise, you just tend to go back into habits. So something is here to support you energetically and to push you to be a bit more disciplined, because there's a side inside the human mindset that's lazy for this. So it's something is helping it a little bit to say, come Papa, get up off the ground. I say, I can't get up. I say, come on, get up, man. Sometimes we throw a firecracker and you start to get up, and you see, it needs that firecracker to kind of get up, because it's important to do that. Now, sometimes I say to some people, don't wait for the firecracker, but they hear it, they say, yeah, I know it's true, but I just can't make it, I can't make it. So it's very difficult to put that into just one kind of teaching. Something is there. If you come and you're receiving this, is because something is working in its own way that we maybe don't understand exactly, but it's working in its own way.
And what about the aspect of avoidance that you speak about?
Of avoidance.
That you say that if there's a root of avoidance, then doesn't matter what you do.
That is consciousness. That is speaking to the consciousness that's really identified with or adopted the personal identity. That it becomes very weakened from its true state, and the tendency is living off a lot of tendencies which is believing are true. So the teachings come in a way to kind of break that and to you see, if there's a strength here, is that there really isn't an expectation. So it's just happening like this. You see, because there isn't really an expectation, and yet sometimes I say, I do have an expectation of you, because I expect you to get it, because you're here, you have the opportunity, and you have to get it.